Welcome back to the Finish 'em Combat Sports channel, a channel where we discuss all things combat sports, and we have another casual guide to boxing. Boxing, the sweet science. Now this one might be a long one. It's a bit of a journey for this one, but I warn all of you fellow boxing fans, this is not meant for you hardcores. This is something for others to learn, something new, but it's unlikely that you'll learn something new here. My aim here in this video is to teach the casual audience a little bit about starting boxing. And we're gonna start, unfortunately, with probably the most confusing part of boxing, the belt system. And the obvious thing about a belt system in a combat sports is that it represents who your champion is. And you probably think, well, no shit, Danny, every idiot knows that. But in boxing, there's a special situation with belts. There are 4 of them, all belonging to 4 different organizations that go along with each of those belts. There's the IBF, the International Boxing Federation, the WBO, the World Boxing Organization, the WBC, the World Boxing Council, and the WBA, the World Boxing Association. Each sanctioning boxing organizations that set up and help organize your favorite sports bouts. The system can be intimidating or confusing to the casual viewers. Absolutely. Thus, I think it personally pushes a lot of casual viewers away. That's my theory and opinion about why boxing has fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years. I think the belt system pushes away the casual viewers, not giving the sport the proper recognition that I believe it deserves. Because even though I'm a fanatic of all things combat sports, boxing, I've mentioned before, has a special place in my heart. While something can be intimidating, it shouldn't be the reason you don't pursue an interest. In the most simple possible way, we will be explaining the system so you can at least go in a little bit more understanding of what's going on in the sport of boxing. Understand that there are 4, I repeat, 4 main belts in the sport, each with a sub-style belt below those belts. They're called interim belts, but we'll get into that another time. This is where the confusing part of boxing comes in. These organizations make money off of fighters who hold belts. A sanctioning fee is what they call it. And so they make money anytime someone holds a belt. So you'll notice that there will be belts made up or created out of thin air, and you'll notice there'll be multiple people with multiple types of belts, and it can be confusing. I mean, there's some franchise championship belts you can use an example, interim championship belts, so on and so forth. Some examples you can understand are the Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez situation, where Devin Haney holds the official WBC belt, but Teofimo is the franchise champion because he beat the original champion of the WBC belt. But they promoted them. Again, as you can hear me talking right now, it sounds fucking confusing. It is. It's so fucking confusing. Even boxing fanatics are confused. But guess what? The promotion of the WBC makes money off of Teofimo and Devin Haney, even though they hold the same title. I'll explain that all in another video. Those types of situations need an explanation of their own. For now, let's just focus on the 4 main belts and the ones everyone should care about when you enter the sport of boxing. Let's start with the WBA, also known as the World Boxing Association, formerly known as NBA, or the National Boxing Association. I'm glad they didn't keep that name. The WBA, the first of the organizations, making it the oldest, came out in 1921, at the time known as the NBA, and changed in 1962, now the WBA, and started here right in the US. But currently the headquarters are in Panama after a few different relocations. The belt is easily identified as the black belt with a red trim and what is a big gold medal on the waistband with what looks like a crown on top of the medal, and in the middle of all of that, with a white center and a red trim, written out World Boxing Association. Obviously, there are alterations to the belt as they do change over time. Next, we have the most recognizable one, the WBC belt, also known as the World Boxing Council, which is our second major sanctioning organization ever created and was brought together by 11 different countries: the US, Puerto Rico, Argentina, the UK, France, Mexico, the Philippines, Panama, Chile, Peru, Venezuela, and Brazil. Later members would join these countries in the organization, which led to it very easily, but these are the ones that started it all. This one is sporting the bright green leather belt with the faces of previous title holders along the belt line and the flag of all 161 country members on the center on a gold plate, and on top of that, in big black bold lettering, spelling out WBC. It is impossible to miss. A notable champion right now would be Tyson Fury, who is the WBC champion in the heavyweight division. It's the most impossible one to miss. I'm telling you that right now. And it's probably the world's most known belt in all of combat sports. Next up, we have the IBF belt, also known as the International Boxing Federation. This is the third organization for boxing that was introduced preceding the WBA and WBC. After its founder, Robert W. Lee, lost in his pursuit to become the WBA president. The IBF being new, it was hard to gain proper recognition as the WBA and the WBC. So they just started handing out the title to already holders of the other recognized organizations. It wasn't until then WBC title holder Larry Holmes relinquished his WBC belt, the most recognizable boxing belt, and accepted the IBF recognition. That there launched the third sanctioning body into legitimacy. Now, the IBF belt is another very unique belt like the WBC, as it sports a bright leather belt with two gold pendants on the left and right of a huge gold center that it outlines in a gold trim with what I presume to be an eagle on the top of that trim and two globes of each side of the earth at the center, and spelling out in full IBF, International Boxing Federation. Last but not least, we have the WBO, or the World Boxing Organization, being the last and most recently conceived organization in 1988. Now, this one also has a very interesting history. My home country of Puerto Rico and our Caribbean sister country, Dominican Republic, or the Republica of Dominica, I know some people call it that way, I'm just being an idiot, had a hand in the creation of the WBO, as a group of Puerto Rican and Dominican businessmen were at the base of creating this organization / belt. It started with President Ramon Piña Acevedo of the Dominican Republic, but gained recognition and notoriety and legitimacy through the WBO's elected former heavyweight champion Jose Torres of Ponce, Puerto Rico, as its president. Now, the WBO belt has a more clear inspiration from the IBF belt, sporting a more maroon leather belt line and like the IBF, two golden circular pendants on the right and left of each side of a golden center with a gold trim and an eagle on the gold trim. But instead of two separate globes, the entire inside of the golden eagle trim is the globe with the boxing ring at the very center of that, with WBO at the very center of that. Yeah, this one's a lot. There's a lot going on in this one. But this is the final belt. Now, these are the four belts most recognized for boxing for their top champions. Now, each of these organizations does pull their fair share of weird things, creating titles and placement of belts, or even creating interim belts. The easier answer to explain this is that it's money related. It's true, all the boxing organizations create these sanctions for each person who holds a championship belt, so that the belt holder pays a fee towards the belt organization. Thus, a lot of organizations will create these, let's call them subcategory belts, thus giving the organizations, not promotions, very big difference, more money. A lot of hardcore fans hate this and thinks it ruins the legitimacy of the sport. This probably has some merit as to why the sport is not as strong as it used to be, as well as it is my belief that a lot of casuals turn away from the sport due to the confusion of all the belts and who the real champion is and who is the real top dog. And of course, on top of that, there's politics of the sport. Regardless, these are just the main belts you should be aware of. Now, I should mention, when you have more than one of these belts, when you have one but less than 4, you are a unified champion. So holding between 2 and 3 belts makes you a unified champion. You have unification. Now, if you gain all 4 belts, an extremely difficult task and the ultimate goal for every great boxing competitor, this will gain you the title of undisputed champion of your respected weight division. You will be the top dog. It is incredibly difficult, usually a rare occurrence. Some notable undisputed champions you may already know without realizing are Mike Tyson, who was undisputed in the early in the early of his career in the 80s before his loss to in a wild upset by Buster Tokyo Douglas. Now, guys, if you're a casual fan watching this, I hope you got a better understanding of the belt system, at least at a level of, I would consider it a 101 level if we were in college. This is the basic standard of it. We will be going into interim belts, franchise belts, ring magazine belts. There are a ton of different situations with belts, unfortunately, in this sport, but I still love the sport. And one of my favorite things is to see a fighter go undisputed. It's a rare occurrence, and I usually really love it, so it's something you should definitely look forward to. Thank you for watching this episode of the Finish 'em Combat Sports channel. Guys, don't forget to follow us on our 2 platforms, TikTok and Twitter. Also, we will have another video coming out fairly soon, so we will have more content coming out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, follow us, share us, hit the bell notifications. If you have friends that are interested in getting into combat sports, share them, tell them about us, and then have them subscribe. Again, hit the bell notification button so you're always up to date when we put out videos. Guys, you guys have a fantastic day, and we will see you guys on the next one. Adios.